Hi guys, welcome back. So today's video is a very exciting video for me. I am going to have to really control my excitement in this video because we are talking about my most favorite jazz singer of all time, the one singer who has influenced and inspired my jazz singing above all others. We are talking about Ella Fitzgerald. But enough rambling, let's get into her history. So Ella Fitzgerald was born in Newport News, Virginia in 1918, but she eventually settled in Yonkers, New York after she was orphaned at the age of 15. So this was in 1933, and by 1934 she entered herself into an amateur contest at the Apollo Theater in Harlem. And she actually originally entered for dancing, but in a last-minute change of heart, she decided to sing instead, and she won the competition. She won a whole $25, which at the time was a lot of money, especially for a young orphan in the city. And she gained a lot of admirers from this contest. And these admirers brought her to the attention of a band leader named Chick Webb. And they basically pushed her into his dressing room one day and had her sing for him in a kind of blind audition. And he immediately took her in and brought her into his band. So in 1935, she started singing with Webb's band at the Savoy Ballroom, and she was only 17 years old. And in a wonderful twist of fate, Webb was more than just Ella's teacher of all things jazz. He also became her guardian. After her parents died, he filled that hole of a parent that she was missing now. But unfortunately, Webb had been ill for most of his life, and in 1939 he passed away, leaving the band to Ella. And this is where we really start to see those features of her career that make her more than just a jazz singer, because she didn't just become the leader of a jazz band, which was already an amazing feat for a woman in 1939, but she was also respected as an equal by the members of the orchestra, which was absolutely unheard of because orchestras were almost entirely made up of men, and this orchestra was made up of men. So for her to be treated as an equal and for her to be the leader is one of the ways that she really started to set the changes in the jazz world. So she maintained this highly unusual position from 1939 until 1941 when she began her solo career. And for the rest of the 40s, she dominated. And she really actually dominated the jazz world for basically the rest of her life and the rest of her career. But the 40s was when she started to transform her style of singing into what we consider to be Ella's voice today. So the 40s is when she was really working on honing her improv abilities and making improv into her own style. And we can easily see the difference between Ella's improv and Billie Holiday's improv and anyone else's improv, really. She had a very distinct style to the way that she improvised lines. And she also used the 40s as a time to really master the art of scat singing. And she didn't just master scat singing, she kind of became the face of scat singing. I think that if you talk to anyone who studies jazz or loves jazz today, or even back then, if you asked them who is the greatest scat singer of all time, they would probably answer with Ella Fitzgerald. So the 40s is also when she embarked on what's known as her songbook album series. In 1946, she joined up with Norman Granz and his orchestra at an event called Jazz at the Philharmonic, where they compiled and recorded the works of many of the most famous and best jazz composers to date. So namely Irving Berlin, Duke Ellington, Rodgers and Hart, Cole Porter, George Gershwin. And these recordings are widely considered to be the best recordings of those works. And these albums are what earned her the title of the First Lady of Song, which she held for the rest of her life and even now. And as if all of this wasn't enough to cement this idea that Ella Fitzgerald is some kind of jazz singing demigod, there's also all of her awards to consider, and there are numerous. She actually won 13 Grammy Awards along with a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. And she is almost unanimously considered to be one of the great voices of classic modern jazz, mostly because she had this very pure simplicity to her tone that not very many other jazz singers could boast that they have, aside from singers like Sarah Vaughan. But one thing that was uniquely Ella was a very girlish quality to her voice. And I know that that sounds a little off-putting at first, but it's actually a very incredible detail about her singing, that from the beginning of her career until the last recording she ever made, she sounded like that 17-year-old girl who sang at the Savoy Ballroom with Chick Webb's band up until the end of her career. And of course, like all careers, hers did end in 1993 due to major health problems. She had always been a bigger woman, and in 1987 she underwent a coronary bypass. She also had been suffering from cataracts in her old age, and that caused progressively failing eyesight, which made it more difficult to perform. But she kept going until she had to have a double leg amputation due to diabetes, and this is what effectively ended her career because performing at this point was almost unbearable. So her career ended officially. She retired in 1993, and then she passed away on June 15th in 1996, and left behind this massive legacy of changing jazz and changing opportunities for women who wish to sing in jazz. And honestly, the jazz world cannot thank Ella enough, I think. And that's pretty much all that I have today. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.